So with the coronavirus pandemic, school exam results have been cancelled across the country. So as a result, teachers were asked to estimate the grades of their students and base it on their performance throughout the school year. Now, I don't know if you know, but last week Scotland released their exam results and there was a lot of shock because the estimates that the teachers had given had been moderated by the Scottish Qualification Association, the SQA exam board, and they had downgraded approximately 125,000 grades. Now, A-level results in the UK have been released this week. GCSE results are being released next week, and England and students are now fearful about what these estimates are going to be because so many of them rely on these grades in order to get into university. The Education Secretary, Gavin Williamson, has already been called out for ignoring people's calls to say that there is going to be unprecedented bias and unintentional bias shown to these students. And they're saying that the people who are going to be penalised in their A-levels and GCSEs are going to be poorer pupils, black and ethnic minority pupils, boys. They're saying that these are the groups that are going to have the lowest calculated grades. I don't know, it's just very upsetting. And they were saying all these things before the exam board had even begun to moderate. We're living in unprecedented time, ladies, but what I wanted to ask you is, do you think the current grading system is fair to all students, or should the government be doing more? Should they be correcting, should they be addressing the impact of these biases and the unequal inequalities that are being shown to marginalised students?
I don't think the grading system is fair to all students because the school system is not fair to all students. So, give me my clicks.
You can leave it there.
And the end.
Done. Drop the mic.
My next poem. That's going to be the first line of my next poem, guys. I think it's very well known that black and brown students are underestimated by their teachers, and it's because of the perception that you have of our cultures. You already think that we're going to be disinterested in our work, and you think that we're going to be disruptive, and that's why we're given less of a chance if we act up, because we're more likely to get excluded than white pupils doing the same thing. Like, a bunch of rowdy white boy students, it's like boys will be boys, and then when it's black males, they're sent to isolation, they're kicked out, and all of those things happen. I know a young black boy who was doing well in his maths class and walked to the set above him and went to that teacher and said, I want to be in this class. I can learn at this pace. I want to be doing this work. And when he told me this story, I was so proud of him. I was like, this is amazing that you took this initiative to go and fight for yourself. But then when my initial reaction settled, I realized that should have never had to happen, because we shouldn't ever get to a point where young black students are in the position of rooting for themselves because no one else is doing it. Yeah. So I absolutely want these biases to be addressed, but I don't want people to think that this is solely connected to new issues that we're only seeing because of COVID, because these problems aren't going to go away once our restrictions do.
Luanda, you said it all. I don't even know what I can even add to that, because you're right. Every single thing you said is correct. And you know what? It's so heartbreaking to think that's what you had to do. But you know what? Congratulations to whoever it is that is raising him, and however he's become the person he's become, that will always back himself. Because I think regardless of education or whatever institutes they put us into, as long as we have the strength to back ourselves, we're going to proceed and go forward in some capacity. But I do feel like this whole estimation thing, even before the undermarking or the lowering down of the grades or whatnot, was stupid anyway, because you have some people, let's not forget, some people are teachers not because they enjoy it, not because they want to help nurture the future, not because of any of those lovely, admirable reasons, but some people are teachers just to earn money, and that's the be all and end all. So when it comes to estimating some of the grades for their kids, for their children, or for their kids, whatever you want to call them, their pupils, they're gonna underestimate to begin with. A teacher might not like a pupil, and they will underestimate. Like, or the opposite could happen. A teacher could really like a pupil and overestimate. I feel like it's not fair either way, and I feel like a whole revamp needs to get done of the whole system. And I'm really, really thankful that that I was able to do my education and, you know, go from one step to another without something like a global pandemic happening. And thankfully, regardless of, you know, the situation and the kind of systems that we've been put in, my teachers were calm. I mean, like, had a couple of black teachers growing up, had a couple of white teachers growing up. But, you know, so far, apart from uni, I'm not gonna lie, uni was boring. But apart from that, I'm just really thankful. Don't let me start about that uni, boy.
I think my issue here is not even directly with the teachers, because I think with any place you're going to have good and bad. So you have good teachers and you have bad teachers. And, you know, they had to make a decision. They didn't want to do it, you know, because, you know, my sister's a teacher and I've got a lot of friends that are teachers. They didn't want to be put into a situation where they have to give an estimated grade for a student, because you just never know how a kid's going to perform in an exam, and now you have to make the final decision, and that's not usually their role. So I saw the other side of it where it was kind of hard. Like, I know their informed decision wasn't like, oh, I think it's this. They had to take in consideration all the past grades they've got in that subject, all the past grades they've done in homework, coursework, so that they could come up with almost like an average to say, okay, this makes sense for what you're going to get. But it's heartbreaking when you have to be like, okay, but that student was a nice student and maybe they could have studied it, maybe they could have got it, but you know that studying at last minute never works. But realistically, you're only getting a C because you've only had D's so far, so the highest I could really only give you is a C. Like, do you know what I mean? So I saw the other side of it, which was super tough. But my thing was, I didn't understand where the Scottish like examination board came in and then undermined what the teachers gave. That was the bit that I didn't get, because the teachers are the ones that know the students, even if there might be bias or whatever. They know them more than the examination board know them, and so they have a reason why they're making this decision. You know, hopefully it's a good reason. But the examination board, it's like, what did you look at to say no? This person was graded too high, so I'm gonna mark it down. That was the point that lost me, and I thought it was also undermining the teachers to basically say, I don't trust you in the way that you grade these children or what you think these children are doing, so I'm gonna do it better than you. And I just didn't like the tone that kind of put out there. That was, to be
honest, like, I can actually answer that question, because what it seemed like the SQA exam board was voting on is that they asked teachers to look at past grades and they took that into account, but also what they took into account is what these schools had gotten in these grades for the past 4 years, and then they were trying to do analysis on that, because they were like,
what's that got to do with me?
Because they were saying what they were afraid of, as Anissa just said, like, this child could be doing a D, so the highest I can give you is a C. What they're saying is, actually, if the most they've been getting is a D, then they should be getting a D. It shouldn't be based on what the teacher thinks the best that they could get.
But people can pull things out of the bag.
But they haven't set the exam, and what they have to vote on and what they have to make the decision on is what they're saying has happened in the past 4 years. So they're saying, based on the estimates that the teachers gave in Scotland, it was like 85% pass rate, and they said last year it was only like 65%. They went, it cannot jump 20% in 1 year. So they went, overmarking is happening, and what they had to do was regulate it to make it like much more in line with what it would have been like with the year on year out trends. Now, I don't know if that's correct, but I feel like some teachers probably were given the best case scenario because of the situation and the time. So I'm really on the fence on this, because originally I was just like, no, the exam board is wrong, but
but people deserve a pass, Sophie. Like, this year has been so like challenging and unprecedented. We couldn't have picked it. You know, it's okay sometimes to give people a pass. So what if it was 20% and this year was an anomaly? So what that you are setting somebody up a little bit better than maybe that they were. So
wait a second.
The reason why I'm saying that is because, like, if I just think about it, a lot of these children that are being disadvantaged, we already know kind of what neighbourhoods they're coming from. So their grades, sometimes it's not even about their ability. It's just like, okay, they don't have anywhere to study. They don't have resources. They've got to work. They've got to look after their brothers and sisters. So they don't have the same effort to put into their education. And so sometimes it is about giving a pass. And the reason why I say that is because when I think about my own grades, GCSEs, I was okay. A-levels, it was honestly, I don't even know how I got to 2 years. It was just impossible. And so I made it to my university of choice and the subject I wanted to by the skin of my teeth, okay, by the grace of God, by clearing is how I made it. And I needed that pass because looking at my grades, you would have went, nah, she definitely can't be there. And they let me in. I got that pass, and I said, you know what? Like, okay, I've moved out of London, so everything that was affecting me that was right here is now out of it from me. And now I'm in Coventry. I'm by myself. I'm in this small place. All I do is go library 24 hours. That's all I do. Library 24 hours. I'm studying. I'm doing everything I can to get this education. And it was the proudest moment. Yeah, I walked out, and my dissertation was the first. Everything was first.
Yes,
I never got A's in my life just because I just wasn't set up to be able to study. That's basically the best. I won't go into it, but I just wasn't set up to study. And so, even though I don't want to say Claren was a pass, but that was my pass, and you just gave me that leg up, and I took it and I ran with it, and I did what I had to do. So sometimes you have to. So I know it's like saying, oh, like we can't just give everyone a pass, but sometimes when you do give a pass, the right people will do the right things with it. So I don't see what's wrong with it. That's my personal
Anissa, you gave me goosebumps, man.
I think I was kind of like heading in like a different direction, because I'm talking about like unfairness, and I'm not talking about like people like having grades that doesn't make sense with their track record. I think that people should be graded to what makes sense with their track record. When I was, like doing the whole like college thing and sixth forms, and you look at your predicted grades, for me, I feel like I had a lot of fair teachers who, looked at my work and looked at the way that I was in class and was like, okay, this grade makes sense. But they also did, I don't know if your schools did this as well, probably most schools did this, but they did like a, this is your predicted grade, but this is also the grade that I believe that you can get if you apply yourself more than you're applying yourself now. So it's like, maybe you could get a B in this subject, but Luanda, I know that this paragraph on this paper, that's like to A standard. So if you work at this standard for the rest of the year, you could get these A's in year 11. So there's also like motivation attached to it as well. I don't think students should be like, because what you said, Sophie, like it can jump. It can jump like up
not by 20%.
a lot and down a lot.
They It goes up by small. Overall, over the rule for school years, if we're looking at a general number, and I'm talking about the general number that they said, they were talking about all grades. They went, it cannot jump 20% in a year. It doesn't happen. Like that would be something that was grossly, it might jump by a few percent, but it's not going to jump by 20%.
Like catastrophic. Yeah. Okay, I get what you're saying, but for me, like when I was in school, there were those years where they had a lot of smart people, and I remember like they would struggle with some other years, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're not going to get our Ofsted markings because this year they're just getting like C's, and the year like say for example the year above me at school, they were like A star, A star, A. And so, you know what I mean? Like you do see a drop, and you do want to keep that consistency, but you have to treat students as individuals. Like now that you've given us more information, Sophie, like I do think they were probably being like upgraded a little bit, but but I think that you do need to treat students as individuals. So for me, I presume that the teachers would make the most sense and give the marks that make the most sense from the track record. And then, but I don't like the idea of students being downgraded because people work so hard. Yeah,
and it's like, what was the point of asking the teachers in the first place?
They did take it into consideration. They did take it into consideration, but it wasn't the only consideration. And now what we're seeing is all the other things that came into play. So some people are asking, in Scotland particularly, release the information, release the data, show us what the analysis of all the numbers that you
transparency. We need
exactly.
it.
They're asking for it because they're like, we need to understand this, because where people fall through the gaps is that average student in an affluent area would be marked up, whereas an exceptional student in a poorer area would be marked down. And that's where the problem is. It's these kids that are falling through the gap.
Yeah. And that's that part I don't like. That's what I'm talking about that I don't like. Like I literally just go off the averages. It's not that easy to work out numbers like that. Go off the averages. Stop downgrading students because like of their wealth and stuff. Like make it make sense.
Well,
and some people are not good at test environments.
Not all children are academic, and what we're seeing now is that tests and exams and written exams can't really show the wide berth of how children understand all the intelligence that they have. Some children just aren't academic, some are more creative. But one thing that I definitely wanted to say while we were talking about this is that there is a campaign called #NoWrongPath, which is for students like A-levels and GCSEs. And if you didn't get the results that you wanted, you can go to No Wrong Path campaign and see what other opportunities are available to you, because I'm not sure, but everyone has probably gotten a grade that they weren't happy with, but it doesn't mean that your life is over. It doesn't mean that you can't do your dream job. Keep going. You can do it. Stay on the path.
I like that. She's learning
giving them options. I love it.
Honestly, I believe in it though, because I think, have you guys seen that meme where it's got like a monkey, a fish in a fishbowl, a giraffe, and like a zebra, and it says the exam is see who climbs the tree the best, and you don't take into consideration how many other, like how different everyone's brain works. And the school is so like one track minded, like with the way that they grade intelligence. So for me, like it took me a little bit longer to realize that I'm really smart because of the way that you. So I was like, oh, you know what I mean? Because of the way that people grade intelligence, like you have different, like you might be creatively intelligent or emotionally intelligent, but you might even for me, like doing assessments was so much easier than doing exams. And there's just so many factors for people to have these grades to determine their worth, like is ridiculous to me. So like if there's any students that are watching that have had like themselves downgraded and they're feeling low, or if you're in year 11 or year 13 and you've been hit with the coronavirus, you can still do absolutely anything that you want with your life.
Yeah, because
100%.
good academics will get you a good job. Good emotional intelligence will help you to keep it and get along with your team members. So both of them are completely valid.
That was nice. I love that.